welcome to another video. It's your boy KUDOS, and welcome to another Flip Talk podcast. We have my co-host Alex, and we have a special guest today. We have Karina, and she's from Randolph, another Randolph alumni, and I think she has a nice story to share for you guys. How are you doing today?
Good, finally on break.
Yes, it's Friday. We got the Christmas weekend.
Mhm.
You guys looking forward to the plans?
Mostly. When you have kids, it's a little bit, it's not the way that you would picture Christmas, but
Yeah, I hear you.
um, it is a lot of feeding and changing diapers, but still excited.
Okay. So I'm glad you're on the podcast because I feel like you have an interesting story, and I came across your Instagram. I know you were like putting a couple videos out like about parenting and stuff like that. And I found that cool because like Alex has has a child. I don't got kids, so it's like it's nice to see a perspective of a parent. But sometimes even when you're not a parent, you know these little things, but sometimes like when how can I say it, when you experience it, you start to notice little things that you wouldn't think of before you became a parent. So I feel like down the line we could share a little bit of that, but I want to start with just your experience of where you came from, and just like your morals, how you grew up, and then we'll go into Randolph. So did you grow up in the city?
Yep, I grew up in the Bronx, born and raised.
Hmm.
My parents are Dominican, but I call myself Dominican. I think that is something people who are actually born in DR, that's like a touchy subject. Like, are you
Hmm.
Dominican if you weren't born in DR? But I call myself Dominican. I went to elementary school in the Bronx, went to middle school in the Bronx, and then obviously, I went to high school in Harlem because I wanted to get away a little bit.
Yeah. So how was that transition from middle school to high school? Because I feel like it's a very different system because like if you go out of state or if you go like upstate New York, it's based off where you live. So it's like, oh, like you live in this area, so you're going to this high school. But for me, at least, it was you got to apply to a certain amount of high schools. Because I remember like Stuyvesant had like a test you had to take, and to get into the school. They were all public schools at the end of the day, but some had different requirements. So I found that very interesting, where you had to put a list of middle schools, sorry, high schools from middle school, and then it's like, how do you expect parents to like truly know what schools to pick, especially if they haven't gone through that system? Like a lot of Spanish households, like they didn't go to high school in the U.S. So it's like, how do you expect them to do all that research and just find out what's the right school for your kid, and the distance too?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but my parents weren't involved in like the high school that I picked. I did the
Hmm.
process in middle school by myself, and
Hmm.
it's because I heard that Randolph, like, was decent, like when it comes to public schools, like it was maybe one of the better ones.
Hmm.
Um, and they were saying that you needed a 4 on your ELA state exam. So I was like, okay, I got
Hmm.
that. Let me go there. And so that's why I picked it. I mean, I think it's pretty cool that New York has that you don't have to go to the school that's like right around the block, because that could be the worst school in the district. That could be the worst school in the whole entire city. And just because you live around there, now you have to go there. So I think it's actually pretty cool that New York does that. Um, and honestly, I'm pretty glad that I got to go to Randolph. Like, I don't know if everyone would actually say that about
Yeah.
Randolph,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed my experience generally.
Yeah, Alex is getting the full Randolph experience. Last two podcasts,
I
Randolph
I
alumni.
stood I
Um,
stood in the Bronx. I wasn't going nowhere else.
yeah.
I refused.
Wait,
Where'd
how?
I
you end?
refused.
Yeah.
I refused to go anywhere else. I was too hard headed to be like, I had some friends that went to like Central Park West,
Hmm.
the fashion high school, did a bunch of that stuff. But myself, I just kept myself. I went to Grace Dodge. Um, was there predominantly female school. It was most, it was like 60-40, I believe it was. So pretty much it was a good experience. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, definitely. If I would have probably turned back the clock, I'd definitely go somewhere different.
Hmm.
Probably do it. Don't regret anybody that I met, things that happened, and all that stuff. But mostly the school, I probably would have probably went somewhere else.
Yeah.
But
I,
it is what it is, though.
yeah. I think it was the same thing for Randolph, right? It was like more females than males. I think it was a crazy ratio, like kind of like the 60-40, or like I think it might have been more honestly.
Really? I feel like
Yeah.
the guys were really loud, so they made their presence really known.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I remember like people used to brag about that. I was like, oh, there's way more girls in the school than guys. And I just remember hearing that all the time. I could be wrong, but if it, I think to a certain extent, I think it was like that. But yeah. So from middle school into high school, how was that transition for you? Like, I know you did a couple of sports, right? It was multiple?
I did volleyball
Mm-hmm.
and softball.
Volleyball and softball. So did you like jump right into it for since freshman year, or did you kind of like try to find yourself and like find your clicks and it's like, all right, like, I'm gonna try this out.
Yeah, so elementary, middle, I didn't do any sports, and I was really protected by my parents. So I
Okay.
really went straight from school home, and it was accompanied by my brother. So up
Okay.
until eighth grade, my brother was walking me to and from school. It was a lot. So you can imagine why I wanted to go maybe a little further. Harlem's not that far
Yeah.
from the Bronx, but still, I got to go on my own. So freshman year, I was still trying to figure things out. I went through my little phases, a little emo stage, a little here, the normal stuff.
Yeah.
And so I finally got into the groove of things sophomore year. Sophomore year, I did JV volleyball, and there was no JV softball. I probably should have been in JV softball if we had that for my sophomore year,
Mm.
but went straight to varsity. Didn't play my sophomore year, but then it picked up my junior and my senior year.
So what was the first sport you did?
Volleyball
Volleyball. Okay. So you had no like prior experience. Okay.
at all.
Okay, that's interesting. So did you pick it up right away? Was it difficult?
Volleyball for me was difficult. I think I picked it more as like my intro to like having like a little group of friends and doing the same thing as them. I like the idea of being in a sport, and that was like the first fall sport that I thought I would be decent at. I'm okay. I'm not great at it, but it was fun. The sport that I really wanted to be a part of, though, was softball. So when I was trying to pick a high school, I also wanted to make sure that it had softball as a sport. I didn't know how to play it, but I'm really into baseball. So I was like, I want to try it. And it took me a while to be good at it, but I was really persistent. And so I think that by the end, I think it was okay. I think it was pretty good.
Definitely.
So what led you to that love of softball? Like beyond just wanting to be a part of that. Like was your dad a Yankee fan, a Met fan, or
Yeah,
did watching? Your dad
yeah,
big Yankee fan?
my dad's a big Yankee fan. Like we would spend like
Uh,
watching the entire season. I was tracking it on my phone. Like was a big just baseball fan. And I think there's this part of like sharing that with your dad and maybe wanting to do something that he would be proud of. Like he's always going to be proud of me academically, but doing something in where he would find it cool. I think that was also part of it.
yeah, and usually I know certain dads are protective of their daughters, being that they're gonna play an aggressive sport or they're gonna get hurt. But I think once they see that you can actually tough it out, I think it kind of is like, oh, you know what, she can play. All right, cool. Because I
Yeah,
know
they
a
were.
lot of, I remember a lot of girls, their dads used to go, watch them play, and it's like super nervous because it's like, oh my God, like, is she gonna get hurt? Like I used to even see like, I was telling Jonathan, like, my brother used to go to softball games, and sometimes there'll be co-ed softball games, male and female. So you can imagine, a male hitting a softball, God knows how hard, right at, some of these girls are just eating these line drives, and I was like, holy cow. And it's like, they walk off like it's nothing. They'll laugh about it. And it's like, holy shit, you just took a whole like 110 mile per hour pitch to the face. And you caught it. She caught it. Like, I'm just like, God. But that's definitely like I say. I guess from there, that's what you really wanted to play. So how was that experience softball wise? Like how was that transition? Like from volleyball now, you're getting into the softball now.
So I think I forgot who the coach was for volleyball. I think that kind of says it. It was a little forgettable. With softball, you couldn't forget the intro to it because I had Sanchez. I don't know if you remember Sanchez.
Yeah, of course.
Sanchez, he had his faults, but one thing I will say, like, he taught me how to really respect the sport. So people were dropping like flies in the first couple of weeks because he took conditioning really seriously. So if you really wanted to be a part of it, and you didn't just want to look cute in the uniform, which was like half the girls that tried out, they just wanted to look cute in the uniform, which, I don't blame them, high school, whatever. But he would go really hard. Um, and I dropped like 20 pounds in like that season, that first season of softball, even though I didn't even get to like really play. Like I didn't have a permanent position. I was for the most part on the bench. Um, it didn't discourage me though because I knew why I was on the bench. Like I knew Sanchez was being strategic. He had a really good team. He had a strong group of juniors and seniors, and he wanted to win a chip. And so, though I think it was like, I wish he would have maybe poured a little bit more into me and seen that I had potential. Like he obviously like see me, see that I'm hungry, and like press me. I did it for myself, and it was fine. So my first year at softball, it was fun. I made a lot of friends, and I gained some skills. It wasn't though into the second year when I actually started playing like consistently every game where I started to understand like who I actually was as a softball player.
What position do you try out? Like where do you start and where do you end up throughout? Because you know how you tend to change your position sometimes. Where do you end up, and what do you like?
So I started as a left field, outfield, and that was hard for me because in practice I was catching all the balls. I was catching them all. It was fine. But then I would choke on the actual game that second year. And then I was moved to being a catcher, which worked a lot better for me because something I found is like if you do make a mistake, if you're a hustler, you can fix it really quickly and then you can get right back into it and then you can make up for it in the next play. And I like that, like not having to live feeling like, damn, I messed up and I can't fix it. When you're in the left field, especially like softball, sometimes girls are not hitting it out there. You make one mistake in the game, you might not be able to fix it, and then you just live with that.
Kind of confidence, it sucks you right out of you, especially when you know it's something that you probably should have caught, and now you see it just rolling all the way to the wall, and now you see, and you just hear the girls, and you're like, bro, and you can't really, yeah, definitely, and I understand that because, so now you move to this catcher's position, right? Do you feel now, and most catchers do, most catchers that I know they feel like they're the leader of the diamond. They always feel like I control the diamond with the pitcher, but I make sure that I'm always alert. I'm always have to be his eyes wide open. Did you feel that same way when you started catching?
Oh yeah, my confidence went through the roof. I even got a little aggressive. I felt like I could do that. Like someone tried to steal the base and I'm like on it. And so I'm really happy that I transitioned to them. That actually was because of Peter Gonzalez. I know you mentioned him in the last one when Sanchez left. Like Sanchez, I don't know if he saw like the potential in me, the one that I thought I had myself. Gonzalez, he was coming straight and he didn't know who I was maybe a couple years back when I didn't have any of the skills. He's like, oh, she's a hustler. He was willing to put me in a new position and I excelled there. So I think Gonzalez like was part of the reason why my confidence went up so much.
Yeah, I like that comparison you made. I used to play catcher too, so that's such a good example. Where you said like if you make a mistake, you can make it up the next play, because there'll be a lot of times where somebody will steal a base on you. They'll steal from first to second, and it's like, oh, I got him, okay. But it's like in high school, they're like kids are so jumpy that they're like, oh, I'm gonna steal again. So it's like when they try to steal from second to third, you make sure to get that throw and you get them the second time around. So that's a great comparison. Like I can definitely relate to that where when you're in the outfield and the ball hits you, the play's a matter of seconds, right? But when that ball's in the air, it feels like it's up there for 2 minutes and you're just like waiting for it to come down. All eyes are on you. You just feel like the presence of everybody just staring at you. So I could only imagine that pressure you went through. And I can definitely relate to that because I did try out, outfield stuff like that when I played outside of high school. But catcher was always my favorite just because of how involved you were. And, you're sitting there telling the pitcher what pitch to throw every pitch. And it plays a big role because that's going to decide where the ball's going to end up.
Yes, definitely. You're going to be the commander of the field. You're trying to put everybody in the right places. And that to me that's a big, for you, it probably was a big role. And I think you look like the type of person, once somebody gives you a role, you're like, hey, I'm going to master it and I'm going to make sure that I do 110% of my job. Yeah. So now, that's why I would see that you like that. You was like, all right, he saw you. all right, maybe she's good here. Maybe we need to have her here. Now you're like, oh, brand new opportunity. Now let's make the best of it. So now, basically, now you're playing now. What, your junior year now?
Junior
So
and
now,
senior year.
so then now going into like, so now basically junior year you're catching. How does now that get like? How does that now change over? Like, how do you now focus? And now you're the catcher. How does that change your mentality now going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt more like a leader on the team. Come senior year, I was one of the co-captains of the team. I mean, a lot of our like
Nice.
really well-seasoned players had graduated, so I was one of the remaining. But I think part of that was because I just started acting like a leader, calling like any of the new girls. It's like, hey, we're at the turf, we're practicing. If you want to come, season hasn't started, but if you want to come, come because we're willing to help you out. Doing things that honestly I wish that some of the seniors when I started would have done. Again, I understand they were focused on winning their chip and they had their team. Like I get it. But when I was a senior, I definitely was thinking about making sure that the team that we left behind was decent too.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. I feel like especially underclassmen, when they're coming in, they're just as lost as when you come in as a freshman. So, just being able to like experience it like for a couple of years prepares you because in a sense you're like, okay, I it's not only about the game, it's about practice, it's about how we're gonna get to the game, like what calls like do we normally use and or like just playbooks or anything like that in the sense of like what's your position and how are you going to contribute to the team. So I just feel like it's very hard for a player to come in, especially if they're used to like a travel team or like a little league team where it's not so structured like a high school where it's like, oh, we're going to have practice at this time, and if you're getting late to practice you're not going to play. Like, so it's like those little things that you got to teach to the people that are behind you. And I feel like that seems like something you picked up very strongly. You kind of took like that soft, because I remember you guys had like a really big team at some point. I can't remember what
Yeah.
year it was, but I remember I went to one of the games and it was like, I remember like, yeah, I looked like a football team. Like it was so many of y'all wearing jerseys. I'm like, holy crap! Like they got a big
That
team.
was Gonzalez because Gonzalez. Listen, I don't know what was in his head, but I don't think he wanted to cut anybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know if his conditioning was as rigorous as Sanchez's. So a lot of
Mhm.
people, we didn't have as many people drink
Mhm.
as they did back in the day.
Um, so this is a little different, but like, what was your first experience like? Just pretty much like getting a glove and getting your baseball equipment, because I feel like that alone can be fun. I remember the first time I bought my catcher gear, I was so excited. I wanted to go to the park the next day, try it on. I would hit up my friends all the time just so I could go to the park and throw it on. And it's like I didn't really have to wear it, but I'm like I need to get used to it. So what was your experience with that?
Yep, my first glove went to Modell's on 181st.
Mm.
Got like a pink one, probably not the right size. Like I was with a friend, Danya, and we were both joining at the same time, and we just picked like I don't know if we picked all the right things, but we stock up, and it was cool. I think it was that feeling of like wow, I'm like a part of like a real sport in high school. It was like a sense of like pride, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of pride around though for sure. But how was that transition to playing sports and also like having to do the schoolwork?
Not gonna lie to you, sometimes I work in a school now, so god dang, if any of my kids hear it, but I don't remember doing. I obviously did it. I don't remember doing homework. I know
Mhm.
I did it. Like I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't do homework. But most of my core memories are like spending all my time until at least six, like at the turf, getting home,
Mhm.
being dead, like so dead, sleeping sometimes in the bathtub because I'm just like so tired. But I definitely found time to do the work. I think also when you have the right friends, you guys are doing kind of the same thing. So I'm not the only person in AP biology. I'm not the only person in, that history class. And so, we would do the homework together or anything, or we would talk about it at least. Like we would help each other, not cheat, but just like talk about it. And
Mhm.
so it didn't feel like I had to I don't know. It didn't feel like being an athlete meant that I couldn't do academics as well.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those too. I feel like I would just listen in class. That was my thing. I'm like, if I pay attention in class, I don't really have to go home and study. I'll just take it, like, whatever I learned throughout the day and just apply it to the homework. So that was definitely how I got by high school for sure too. And I always used to get like decent grades. I'm not gonna say I had the best grades, but I'll always pass my classes. So I could agree with that.
Yeah, I would say like transition from high school to college, I
Mm-hmm.
do wish I would have tried more
Mm-hmm.
because yes, I got into a good college, like great, but then when I was in the classes, I was like, I feel a little bit behind and now I have to work harder than the people around me
Mm-hmm.
to catch up and to be, doing the same things and so that's the one thing. Though Randolph, like, they made it pretty like easy to do well as long as you paid attention in class and you did your homework. A little bit more effort might have gone a longer
Yeah.
way for me.
No, yeah.
Definitely. I believe it. I believe because most of sometimes most of these kids just used to just get by. You know what I'm saying? You just try to do the best. Yo, you did the homework yesterday, and let me copy it. Then they probably read the answers wrong, and
Yeah.
then it's like, all right. But so now, yeah, so definitely college is more demanding because obviously they want to see, certain professors kind of want to. Certain professors are just miserable. I just feel this way, and they just want to make your life miserable. So if they're miserable, they're gonna ruin yours, your day. At least try to ruin your day. But then some really want to pull your potential. They really want to give you that. Oh, I really see how she's going. So let me give her. Let me push him. Let me push her because they see that. They see what student is lacking or they see whatever. And college is different because now it's your own terms. Even though they're teaching you, it's on you. It's not like high school where you used to get yelled at, like, hey, wake up, stop sleeping, get up. Why you're late? No, now it's like, all right, you're late. All right, well, guess what? This is what happens to you now. So it makes you be responsible as you go along and as you grow and everything else.
Yeah. And they also look at your grades too. Like, I remember just it's crazy how like your middle school grades matter to what college you're gonna go to, which is it's like you could get a leg up because I remember like they had like certain programs in high school where you can get college credits. So like you could get a head start in college, through high school where you're taking AP classes. I remember they used to offer like math and science classes. I never really took any of them, but I remember it was there for like the students that had high grades. So it's like those little things that you wish you knew in high school where maybe you want to went a little harder so you could try to get a head start and kind of like avoid an extra semester in college.
For
But
sure.
before we go into your college experience, what was your favorite Randolph moment or favorite softball or volleyball moment, if it comes to your mind?
I think I think like the moments that come to mind the most with the softball team is the traveling part of it.
Hmm.
So like being on the train together or being on the bus together to Randall's Island and just like the friendship and the joy and the
Hmm.
silliness that we all had there. Like I think those were just like my favorite moments in all of Randolph. Um, I miss being that silly. And I
Hmm.
think like those that nervous feeling that you have before a game or that feeling you have after you win a game and that like being together aspect of it, those were just my favorite moments. But like outside of softball, I think a really funny moment. I think about I don't know why, but it comes to mind a lot. Was like our senior prank.
Oh
So I was just thinking,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think we trashed the hallways with like
Yes,
balloons and confetti.
yeah, confetti. I remember we were like using post-its, everything, and I have a personal like I remember like personally like I remember walking down the hallway and everybody was coming down different floors, different like it was so
Mhm.
crazy because so many of us in that senior class that we were able to be on all the floors at once. So I remember when we got to like the third floor or something, I somehow ended up in the front. And I'm like, damn, the person in the front always gets caught. So I'm like, I'm praying to God like nobody grabs me, pulls me to the side. But it was a fun experience for sure. I feel like we didn't get like penalized anyways because like we still had our senior trip, all that, like everything was
I think
perfectly
we cleaned
fine.
it up though, right? Like it
Hmm.
wasn't really that. It wasn't
It
really
could have
that
been
bad.
worse, yeah.
It
I
was
mean,
worse. We
the original plan they were trying to get like a chicken, like a live chicken, and let it loose. Like that
could
was
have been.
that was the original plan, but I don't think it. I don't think nobody really took it that far.
I'm glad. I mean,
Well,
I
we have
like.
to go find the live chicken. They're like, listen, this is we're in Harlem. Like,
Yeah,
And how are you going to enter the school with the live chicken?
exactly. And I think that was around the time we had the whole metal detectors and all that. I think it was during our senior year. But I did want to bring up. I just remembered again. You won prom queen, so I want to give you your credit. You want to speak on that a little bit? Did like you expect to win? Like, what was your? At what point did you're like, I'm gonna run for it?
I don't remember how it. I don't know if someone nominated you or you put yourself in, because I don't
Yeah.
fully remember. Like, I want to be prom queen.
Mm.
I was surprised that I won, because I definitely wouldn't have considered myself popular. Like, I wasn't a part of that crew. I was just like, I feel like I was a chiller. Like, I had
Yeah.
my group of friends, but I was nice to everyone, and everyone was like nice to me. I never had really big issues. So yeah, I was actually surprised that I won.
Definitely.
I don't know why. I don't know how that worked out, but
Yeah.
it's a very humble queen, I see. Very humble.
it's one of my virtues.
Hey, you could talk your shit for a little bit. You could be like, you know what, I won it, you know. But I think
She
that's
still got
cool.
it. She still got it in her room in a nice
Yeah,
case.
she's like, I still got my crown. I still got my crown. Let me go grab it from the closet.
I don't have
She
the
got
crown, but I took a
spotlights.
picture of it so I can remember it. So, yeah.
Okay,
She
okay.
got spotlights
Well,
everywhere.
I work in high school, so I sometimes I tell them, I'm like, I used to be cute, and then I show them my pictures, and they're like, it's you, and I'm like, all right, don't be that surprised, because these high schoolers, they got a mouth on them.
I heard you. No, yeah, these kids is brutal nowadays.
Kids, no chill.
That's definitely something we're gonna talk about later. I want to just know your experience and like what age group you're dealing with. But okay, so you're done with Randolph. You graduate. How was your college experience, and what was the highlight after high school for you?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Vassar. It's in Poughkeepsie, upstate New York,
Okay.
and great school. Still have the most amazing friends from there. But it was hard. Like, I think that's something I already kind of emphasized. It's like, it was the first time that I actually had to try academically, and I didn't fully understand what it meant to try, because like I didn't have to study at Randolph or middle school. Like, studying wasn't really something you needed. You just had to pay attention to class, like you said, because the classes weren't like as rigorous. I was pre-med, so I was taking biochemistry, physics, and the calculus, and at the college level, and I was just like, I was struggling. Um, Obviously, I made it through, but um, in that way, it was really hard. There was a point where I was like, should I even stay in this school? But then I got my stuff together. I think from my sophomore year to my junior year, like, things got a lot better, and I finally got my groove. But it was definitely hard. I think what was fun about it, though, is like, I finally had more independence. I got to grow a lot. Like, I think living in the city, it's really diverse, but I feel like we think, I was surrounded by people who thought like very similarly. Like, I would, at least my group of friends, and I went to church, and it was just like, there wasn't that much of diversity of thought. So when I went to college, I got to know like a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. And I think that just made me a better human being. So I think that was my favorite thing about going away for college, and why I recommend it to like any kid that I come in contact with. I'm like, I really think you should go away, not to get away from your parents, but because you really grow up when you have to be by yourself.
Because I sincerely think that you should be able to have your own experience, and allow yourself to be able to bloom and just get everything. Because living in college is completely different, because you don't have your mom, you don't have your dad. It's just you. It's just you and whoever your roommate is, and you better hope to God that you like that person, because if not, it's like the worst experience ever. But when you and that person do click, it's a fun moment because you know it. You know, so I definitely agree with you on that. That's a definitely a dope experience, and I think every kid should live it. I think when my son I love when he's able to say, "Hey, I want to go to this school." Listen, I need you to leave, like
Yeah.
go, and not come back until you graduate or you lose a lip. I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, no, definitely. I really. So, when you went to college, was it a priority to do sports once you left Randolph? Or was it kind of like put on the back burner because you saw how school was? Like, you were like, wait a minute, time out. Like, this is You know, I can't focus at you. You knew in your head like, yo, I can't focus on both.
Yeah. I think the thing that so I didn't do softball in college, but the main reason was because we didn't have a softball team, which is kind of crazy because my school used to be an all girls school and then it like became co-ed. Um, so it didn't have a softball team, and I don't know why, but I didn't want to do like the club. I was like, we're not competing against anyone. Like that joy is not there for me. And so it went on the back burner, and then slowly I like lost my skills, and I felt really bad about that. Um, it was also because I had to focus on. So like I could have went out of my way and like found a team, but I really felt like I had to focus on academics because it was tough.
Definitely. Yeah, I personally myself didn't go away. So, but then I have siblings who did, and it's like just going to visit campus and like, just seeing the resources, like, having gyms, like full blown gyms where you can go work out. You got basketball courts, you have tennis courts sometimes, and it's like these teams like they go beyond high school. That's when you really see the great fields, and you also see like better coaching. The coaches in college are pros, past pros, or players who almost got to that point, like Edwin. Edwin's a coach now, so it's like he's a great example of somebody who really took baseball seriously and is now a baseball coach. So yeah. I just feel like it makes you also an adult, because like college classes, I don't care what school you go to, are very difficult, and it's probably one of the biggest commitments that you'll ever do. And there's so much you learn from it. You just can't pick one little thing. Everybody has a different experience. So some people just come into college and they're great at it, but then you have your people who struggle, and it's like they do okay in the beginning, like freshman year, and then your GPA isn't the best, and then you spend the next 4 years trying to make that better. And it's like you're even lucky if you make it to those 4 years, because a lot of people just, through the stress or life, having a job or not, it plays a big role. So if you have a job and you're trying to bring up your GPA, it's probably the hardest thing you're trying to do. But if you have a yeah, go ahead. No,
I was gonna say, like, having a full-time job, I can't even imagine. I had a part-time job as a part of my financial aid package, and that was hard too, because like most of my friends didn't have to have a part-time job to attend. They probably didn't need to have as much financial aid, or they just didn't have to have the job, and so they got to spend that time in the library or doing whatever, and then I had to go and travel like for 4 or 5 hours a day, like doing this other thing, and that also kind of was hard because I felt like I couldn't, like, my experience was just a little bit different than from a lot of my friends at Vassar too.
Definitely. And then like you brought up the financial part of it. That's a beast of its own. Like, just that financial stress, especially when you're going away. The tuition is much more than staying in a CUNY school. I myself I started in a CUNY school. I went to York and Queens, and then I transferred over to a SUNY school, and like the tuition is just scary to think of. Just the difference is like you're paying either double or triple, like at the end of the year, where you're comparing the two, and it's like, man, I should stay in CUNY, but it's like I feel like in a way you're limiting yourself as well. Depending what school you go to, like I just feel like it really comes down to your major, but just experience wise, I feel like you have more opportunities in SUNY schools overall. Not saying CUNY is not bad, or good, but it really comes down to your personal experience.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's what you make of. Yeah, I think it's what you make of it. Like, some people, if they choose to go to CUNY, but they know they want to go to graduate school, they get their master's, like. Really, then it doesn't matter where you go undergrad. Just like make sure you do really, really well, and then you can get into Harvard for your master's program. Like, it doesn't. So like it matters, but it also, again, that's what you said. It's like what you want to do with it.
Yeah. And
see it as a stepping stone. Everything is a stepping stone. Not everything has to be. Some people kind of see it as, oh, I have to take this long shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I got to go to Lehman. Well, no, you don't. You really could start at BCC, and then make your way. Because at the end of the day, you gotta understand, like, there's 2 levels of it. You go to BCC, it's the same thing. Teachers are different, but one is preparing you for the other. Because one may be a little bit more demanding because of what it is. It's a status. It's like going from BCC to go to like Alabama University. You know what I'm saying? Like you're going to this big time giant college and it's like, they demand different. They want your GPA to be here and they want you to, they want your money. You know what I'm saying? Because you keep the bills on. But if you don't produce, the first thing they're gonna tell you is, yo, sorry, I gotta let you go. Because there's somebody else that's more hungrier that wants to be here. So it kind of, you use that as a stepping stone and you figure yourself out because, to spend the money, that's one thing because you're with that debt and it tags along with you as you go along. I know people that still paying off their school debt. So, and they're going to pay it off for a while. So, if you make that decision, you just might as well just start there. You feel like, what, school is for me. Let's do this. And I already know what I want to do. And you go ahead and do it.
My best advice is have a plan. Especially if you're, like if you're starting off at a 2-year school, maybe you want to, as soon as you get to the school, start looking at what 4-year school you want to go to afterwards, after you get your associates, because what's going to happen is not everything is transferable to any school. So that's my biggest advice. I did the whole, because I went to a 4-year CUNY school, but, I knew I wanted to transfer because to me, it felt like a very high school environment where it's like high school, but just with adults. So I started looking to see what other options I had, and I started to notice that that probably wasn't the best fit for me. I know a lot of people that graduated from that school, and they have careers, and kudos to them. But for me personally, I'm like, I have to get out of this school. I need a different environment. And that's that's when I started really like maturing and looking into my options. I'm like, okay, so these are my top 3 schools that I want to go to. Number 1 is going to be really hard to get into, but number 2 and 3 are a good 80% chance I'll get in. So it's like you have to start looking at it that way. You can't just be like, oh, I want to go to this one school and expect to get to that school, because you will get rejected. Your grades play a big role, and it's not just your grades. It's you have to go in and do interviews sometimes, and they base you basically off of one conversation. A 10-15 minutes conversation is a lot of stress, but it's how life works. When you go into industry and you're working for somebody, you have to do these interviews. You have to present yourself in a way that you have talents that other people don't. So it's like college is preparing you for real life, and it is very stressful. But I feel like college is harder than having a job, like just outside of college. So that's my experience right there. Right. But yeah. So okay, so you're in college. At what point did you decide you wanted to pursue education? Did it come to you? Did somebody recommend it, or it just happened that you did your research and you ended up there?
I did not expect to get into in education after Vassar. As I said, I was pre-med, so I at one point did want to go to medical school. That was like the plan. For some reason, I kept on gravitating towards like education work studies. So a lot of my like little jobs were like tutoring, or like working with kids in general. And so after graduation, when I wanted to take like at least one gap year before applying to medical school, I was like, oh, let me go into something that I feel like I could do decent, which is being a teacher, like a part-time, or not a part-time teacher, like an associate teacher. Might not be like that big of a deal because I've done some tutoring. And so I got in there and charter school and haven't left ever since. Like it just clicked. It's pretty challenging to be a teacher, but I found that how do I say this? Especially being in a charter school, like there's this sense of like being successful and like seeing fast change, and that competitive part of me, plus like generally like liking kids and always being kind of into education, it kind of fed that for me. So found my niche and I ended up just staying.
Definitely. And how long have you been a teacher for now?
So I was a teacher for 3 years. I was a math teacher, 7th grade and 8th grade. I taught algebra and pre-algebra. Then I went on to being a dean of mathematics at the high school for my charter school. So we had one high school at that moment. And deans were basically like assistant principals. So when I went to that high school to be a dean, it was 2 principals and like 6 deans, so 6 assistant principals, and it's specialized into each content. So I was like the assistant principal for the mathematics program at the high school. And so I was coaching teachers and just basically being their manager, people managing. I did that for 2 years. And then the last year, I transitioned to just being like a dean of academics. So that's basically like being like the assistant principal for all of the contents in our second location, which is in Harlem. And so I'm actually working really close to Randolph now.
Nice.
And now it's been a lot of transitions within my charter network. Now I've transitioned to being a co-principal for the school that I'm in.
Definitely. So how was that experience coming in, like coming fresh out of college, and just starting to deal with these kids? Because like I remember I was gonna do a minor education because my thing was it's always good to have education background when it comes to college, because whatever major you have, you can go back to college and teach that. So or not necessarily just college, just anything in general. So I was like, okay, so I'm doing the whole science route. I'm doing the pharmaceutical science route, and I need something to fall back on, just in case. So I did start my education. I didn't complete the minor, but I'm pretty close. If I ever wanted to, I could go and finish it. But I remember personally taking those education classes. That was probably like the most educated I felt. Like I felt like those classes gave so much more information than just taking a basic math or science class. So maybe you want to share that experience where what you picked up or going into the field where you noticed. Because for me, like they will make you do a couple hours going to like a daycare that was connected to the school. So what they did was they had parents, whatever parents had kids, and they wanted to go to school, they could drop off the kids at that specific daycare, and it was part of the college. So we will go and just like take notes and stuff and write papers on it, right? So it was very intimidating just dealing with kids, especially when they're not yours, and just like the little things that these kids do or say, and it's like, ooh, you're not supposed to say that, and it's like, how am I supposed to react to that? I'm not a parent. Like, what's the right way to correct them without them like starting to cry, and the parents are coming through the doors like, why is my kid crying? So how's that stress? And it really comes down to what age group you started with. So like, how was that transition for you just coming out of college?
So coming out of college, I was a bio major. So I wanted to be like a science teacher. I started with 7th graders. So those are on average like 12-year-olds. The best and the worst age group, I will say it. And, the kids that I taught, they're in college now. And so I've told them to their face already, like they were difficult. Like they were real characters. I came in wanting to be a science teacher, but they transitioned me to a math teacher because the math teacher quit before first day of school. So my first interaction with the kids was like very, very nervous because I didn't feel prepared. I had prepared to be their science teacher, not to be their math teacher. And I just like had a clipboard at my chest the entire class period, and I was like shaking. And so I will say, like, for the first week, they had me, they got me, they walked all over me. But I would say that I have a pretty strong character. I think that they would agree as well. And so how do you deal with 7th graders? Like, you don't let them get anything over you. They have something to say. You have something smarter and funnier to say back. And so, yeah, it was difficult, but I think really fun because it's a funny age group.
Definitely.
Being that so now seeing that you're now this this assistant principal now I kind of see now where how do you now kind of now as a dean softball, how much do you give credit for softball for being able to handle that situation?
Yeah, I think something that Sanchez, I don't know if he like taught me this, but he honed this in me. My first softball coach was like, if you're not gonna give it 110%, like why are you here? Like what are you doing? Just leave. And so I've kind of used that. It's like, if I'm going to do something, I have to do it really, really well. And you have to persevere. If things are hard, like you don't give up, because then why did you start to begin with? Like, you have a goal, go for it. And I think that, is something that I like have tried to keep through in my life. That's why I didn't leave the college that I was in. It's like, no, I have a goal. I just have to try a little bit harder. Same thing as being a teacher, same thing as being an assistant principal. Like, things don't necessarily come easy to me, but I'm willing to work hard, and learn what I need to learn, and be as successful as I can in it.
Can you? I don't think I can hear you, Alex. You can hear. Go ahead.
You can hear now?
Yeah, perfect. There you go.
All right. So now, and then also now, like, being that now you have to deal with teachers and students. I know there's a big giant age gap. How do you deal with that now? That's a lot of emotions. You know what I'm saying? Because you got kids emotions and then you have adult emotions. So how is that? How do you kind of bridge that gap? Because that's kind of, when the kids feel a certain way about teachers feel a certain way about the kids. I know it's hard to kind of get them to see eye to eye, especially with some students being the way they are, and and then some teachers being, stubborn as hell, or however they are. Because I know it's difficult when you're trying to build something and try to keep the positivity around. Because I know teachers right now are definitely underpaid. Teachers right now, there's a lot of them that are really good, and a lot of the really good ones tend to leave. And I've seen that a lot, especially with my son's school, especially with my son being that he has special needs, being that you have these really great teachers, and because of the school environment, they just tend to leave. So how do you try to keep your teachers there? How do you try to keep them with you? Because you know that they're valuable to you in that sense. How do you try to keep them together and at peace there?
Yeah, I will say working with kids is probably easier for me, just because you can tell them whatever, and they're gonna take it personally in the moment. But at the end of the day, if they know that you care about them, they're gonna eat it and they're gonna come back better. Like, they're really resilient kids. Adults are also resilient, but I do think there is this aspect of, like, I can leave this job. If you treat me any type of way and I don't like the way that you're talking to me, like, I don't have to stay here. And so it definitely is a little bit more, you have to have a little bit more finesse with the adults. And I think the way that I try to keep like my best teachers is, I think, one, like, actually get to know them, actually get to know what is it that they want out of their career, like, what do they want to improve on, and then make it my point, my to actually help develop them, right? If I do anything this year, my main role is making sure that these teachers are a lot better at the end of this year than how they started. And through them, the kids will be good. When you're a teacher, it's all about the kids, it's all about the kids. When you're, in a leadership role in a school, it's all about the teachers. And if your teachers are really, really good and they are happy and they believe in what they're doing, then the entire school is going to be good. So I think that's like, and I think about people who used to manage me, like, I thrived when people like believed in me and then pushed me. And that might mean like giving me some feedback that was hard. That might mean like not always telling me something that I want to hear, but it's honest. And I think that's something that I try to be. I try to be honest, try to be direct. And at the end of the day, I hope that the people that I work with, they know that it's because I really believe in them, and because I want the entire school to be better.
That is definitely the right attitude to have. I just feel like nowadays, not that everybody is sensitive, but everybody has to be careful of how they lead. Because even though when you're trying to be honest, they may take it a completely different way. So it's like you kind of balance that all, but definitely being stern and making them understand, like, hey, you're a great teacher, but you still need to perfect it. Because some teachers can just walk around thinking that, oh, I'm good at what I do. I won't have a flaw. But if you can tell them, like, listen, I see this. Maybe we should try this, or maybe we should try maybe this way. Maybe these kids would probably, because you have to. And then being that your leadership, that's a part of your job, because you have to show that my teachers are, they're on point. So it kind of like it falls on you. Once again, being the catcher.
Yeah.
How can I point out on the field, like, yo, listen, you're playing too close. You got to move over. It's all this. It's all of that. So I could definitely see why you're there. And to me, that's once again, I told the same thing to Edgar. I told the same thing to Edwin. To me, what you're doing is probably the best thing ever, and I applaud you because these kids definitely need all the help they can get. The youth is definitely the future, and the youth definitely need to be guided as much as possible. And education it starts with you. It definitely starts with you guys. Definitely with Edgar having that IT background, so now having these teaching these kids about computers because that's what's coming. But you yourself just being able to have the right personnel to cater to these children and knowing that, hey, listen, if you're good in my eyes, if you're good for me, then I know that you're good for these kids. And being able to get them to be better for the kids is definitely a big thing. So I definitely applaud you in your efforts.
Thank you.
And then while you're doing all that, and trying to manage school, in the process you're also becoming a parent. So how was that process for you? And then how did it kind of tie into your career? Like, do you feel like it changed you? And just give me your experience as a parent. I feel like me personally, I've seen some of your posts, and I feel like you give good parenting feedback, and I feel like that reflects from your career just because you're around kids and you're around adults, and you're trying to keep everything in order. So I'm pretty sure you bring that into your household as a mother, and I'm pretty sure you do it well. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, and just challenges or accomplishments or things you learned about yourself becoming a parent.
Yeah, I got married in 2020, and I didn't, think I was going to be a parent this soon. It just, sort of happened. Um, I think, especially with the job that I have, I've always thought like, how can I do this job? It's not a 9 to 5. It is like almost a 24-hour job. How am I going to do this job and also be a mother? That was always a question I had in my head. But at the end of the day, it happened, and I have twin boys. Um, I ended up taking like 5 months of leave, which was like the maximum time that I could take. I think what I wanted to make sure was that if I were to return, because I kind of like there was an idea of like, should I go back? But if I do go back, I want to know that I'm ready, that I have no regrets, that I had the maximum amount of time with my kids, and that that I would be excited to go back. And that's exactly what happened. I think month like 3.5, I was like, I think I'm ready because being a stay-at-home mom, guys, it's not easy. It is. I say that teaching or being in education, it's a 24-hour job. I lied. That is really like the 24, and I'm sure as a parent yourself, it's
Uh,
like the 24-hour job.
and
You
it's
don't have
different, man, because it's different when it's your kid, and I definitely understand you because how old are they now?
They're 6 months now.
Oh boy, okay. Yeah, definitely. Enjoy it now. But no, and it's definitely different because now you're with them. You created these children. When you're in there, when they're in your belly is one thing. When they're out in your hands, it's a whole different story. And now everything kind of changes mentally because now it's like, damn, what do I do? So I understand you completely when you're saying like, hey, if I go back, I have to be ready for it because in the back of your mind, when you leave your house, is damn, I left my babies.
Hmm.
It's there. It's in the back of your head all the time. But damn, I left my babies. My baby's all right. My baby's eating. They're sick or they're sick or something, and you're worried, and you got to do this demanding job at the same time, and it kind of puts the weird pressure. And then it's like, a lot of parents tend to just say, you know what, now I'm gonna just stay home, take care of my kid. Unfortunately, some don't have that option. Being a
Yeah.
single mom, or a single dad or something like that, so they have to work, and it's a lot of pressure. But I definitely understand you because it's rough. It's rough because it's not what you're doing is not an easy thing to have. You can't have what you're doing. You can't have a moment that you mess up, or you can't let something slip because you have to be kind of on it all the time.
Yeah.
But that,
And
I mean,
I'm lucky to have.
once again, twin boys is hard. I know twin. It's not one. It's two of them. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely a lot harder because you're losing sleep twice as much. you know, so definitely I understand that when you're only getting 3 hours of sleep a day or 2 hours of sleep a day or however it may be, it's hard, But definitely, that'll be worth it. For me, my experience, it'll definitely all be worth it once you kind of see the person they become, as they grow, who they look like more. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, first, when my son was growing up, I'm like, oh, he looks exactly like me. No, as he got bigger, I'm like, oh shit, he looks like his mom now. Like, all right, that's not my kid. I mean, that's his mom all the way. But now definitely that transition. So now I guess now you've had a couple months now. So now how is it now? Like how are your days now going into work now, knowing that somebody else is I don't know if it's your mom that's helping you, or how do you now being able to concentrate and focus on school, being that your children at home.
Yeah, the first, like, I think couple of weeks I was crying every day. Because I guess I felt guilty. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna like forget who I am. I have their aunt, kind of like doing the nanny role for me. So she's with them from like 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. So that's like around the time that I get home. I get around 6 p.m. I was really guilty at the beginning. But I tried to make the most out of the weekends. And when I get back from work, I was trying to make the most of it. And like slowly I felt, more comfortable. I really trust her as well. My sister-in-law, who's taking care of them. It's a lot easier because I know that like she loves them and she's like really, really good at and making sure that they're safe and healthy and happy, which is what I want at the end of the day. So it's been easier in that aspect. Like the guilt has gone down a little bit. Um, but it is still hard, like logistically. I wake up really, really early. And I'm waking up throughout the night as well. Me and my husband, he does it too. But for some reason, men, they don't listen. They can't hear the baby crying at night. For some reason, I'm the one who hears it. I'm like, I'm gonna move them on to your side of the bed. But I'm waking up multiple times at night and waking up like around 4:30, 5 a.m. to get to work. I leave around 6 a.m. I don't really see them in the morning because they're still, thankfully they're still kind of sleeping. And then I travel to Harlem and I get back around 6 p.m. And then, it's right away. It's like feeding them and giving them a bath and everything. And so once 8:30 hits, that's like when I finally have a little bit of free time in where then I get to clean. So it is in that way a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that makes you go back and think about your parents and like be grateful for what they did, because like it's pretty difficult, doing a full-time job and then having to come and take care of your kids, because they can't walk, they can't talk. You have to automatically assume and just by their body language figure out what's wrong with them, what they need. So it must be a lot of pressure, and you must be like, oh mom, thank you for whatever you did when I was little.
Yeah. No, I know for a fact. And she was doing everything that I'm doing and more because I have four brothers and a sister. So,
Wow.
and I'm the youngest. So, by the time I got there, she had done it left and right. It's definitely hard. And doing it now, not by myself though. I think that the biggest blessing I have is my husband. Like he really holds me down, and I cannot imagine doing the work that we're doing with these kids without him. Like I definitely have my extended family and my parents, and they're all really helpful. But like having a rock at home is you can't even explain how amazing it is.
Yeah, definitely. Mommy mode is definitely different than daddy mode. So you hearing everything is right about it, because you're gonna hear everything. Every little noise, you're gonna wake up. Something's wrong with the baby. Him, of course, he's gonna knock out. Trust me, it'll be a little harder for you right now, but as they get older, it'll be a little harder on him, because that's when he's gonna be excited. I don't know if these kids are gonna be bowling. Got two little got two little professional bowlers or whatever they choose to do in life, but that's when he's gonna start, having a lot more fun and chasing them around and stuff like that. Give you a little bit more of a break when he tries.
For sure.
But definitely, I know, but definitely having that support system really helps, from your husband all the way down to your family members, because I can't, just doing it alone has got to be the most hectic thing I gotta probably ever say that has to go through your mind, because it's you by yourself. There's nobody trying to take care of your son. There's nobody trying to watch your son. It's just you. You're with this kid 24/7, and it's like you can't let them go. And you need that mental space. You need to be able to just say, digress, decompress,
Mm-hmm.
and be like, all right, cool. Now I can focus, come back alive, ready to do it again. So, I know it's tough. I know it's tough, but it does get easier. Trust me, it does get a lot easier. And having a support system you have, I know it'll continue to be easier.
So so now that so it's very recent, there 6 months you said, right? So
Yeah.
so it's like you still haven't even hit that year mark of just getting used to going back to work and
Mm-hmm.
being trying to transition coming straight home. So I think something that's very important that I like to advocate is when you have a career, you also want to have that side hobby or something that you could come home and do that just makes you relax. It doesn't have to be something you do at home. It could be something, like where it's like, oh, Monday nights we'll go bowling. Something that's so simple, little, or it's like, oh, we'll go food shopping this day of the week, just to get out of the house. So, have you found that next thing for you? Because for me, it's like I do my job, but when I come home, it's like I enjoy doing like the whole social media, YouTube, and it's like I enjoy coming home doing these podcasts. It doesn't feel like a job to me. So, do you have anything that you're looking forward to doing, or you're currently doing now that you're a parent and managing work? So,
Yeah, no, not yet, but I definitely hear you. I think that's really important.
yeah,
I think part of like me even wanting to go back to work was having maybe like the mental space to just like do something for myself. Because even though it is a work, I really do enjoy like what I do. But I agree. I think, when I get back from work, sometimes it's just like I'm just gonna lay here.
yeah,
I'm just gonna like once the babies are sleeping, I'm just gonna stay here and do nothing. Um, and I feel like the time goes by really quickly. So it is something that I'm thinking about, just like we have to utilize my time better. I mean, now I'm in my break, and so I pick up a book. And I'm like, okay, I have this book of the month thing, but I haven't read for in a couple months. So like, let me read a little bit, and do something like that for myself.
Keep the mind, how we say, keep the mind trained. Always physically trained, training your mind, keep it sturdy, because sometimes we tend to forget that as well. We always got to exercise our brain. So reading definitely helps. So I agree with you.
I mean, I read trash, right? Like, I'm not out here like reading history books. I'm reading like fiction. Like, I really like dystopian things, and that's it's like watching a movie, just like reading a book. No, not to say that I'm the most educated in that when it comes to that.
Put out a Encyclopedia Britannica, like, boom. Let's start with the eyes today. Like, what? No.
definitely. So do you what's next for you? Do you have any plans? Or well, everybody always should have like short term and long term plans. So, do you have anything in mind for yourself? I feel like you are educated. I feel like you have a strong core. Ever since high school, I remember like you always somebody to be taken serious in the sense like oh, like she don't play around, or she's very nice, but I'm sure like she'll flip that switch on you. You act up, So there's a few people that I will always like. I'm like they're gonna be somebody, or they have special plans for them, or they're in the right field, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, because I'm like I feel like you're doing what is your calling. I feel like you were meant to be in that atmosphere of teaching the youth, and like Alex was saying earlier that teachers are underpaid, and I understand you're assistant principal, but I feel like even to that level, you guys deserve much more. Just because it's such an important job, it starts with education for the kids. It's like if you don't give them the right education, if you don't show them the right things, they're gonna whatever you teach them, they're gonna take with them, and they're not gonna remember everything. They're just gonna take that 20%, but that 20% goes a long way to where I remember this teacher that they told me this one thing, and it's like, oh, because of that I ended up going to college, and it's like it's like I remember just in high school having a conversation with a friend, and they were telling me about the high school, what job they had during high school, and I'm like, you know what? I want to do that, and that's how I ended up getting my first job. Because I'm like, wait, you know, if this person can get a job, I can get a job too. And it's like that was my first introduction to being, you know, responsible and trying to balance high school with going to work, but also trying to play sports at the same time. And I feel like that helped me going into college. So, going back to the question, do you have any short term or long term goals for yourself individually?
Yeah, I think career wise, I hope to open a school one day. And it could be a part of my network. I've been a part of like a new high school, but it would be cool to just open one for myself. And really like get just like the culture right and the culture that I want and reflective of like what I think would make the most successful school. And so I think that that's in the works in the future. Maybe not this year, maybe not next, but it's something that definitely like will happen at one point. And then the thing I'm focused on in the short term in terms of family is just making sure that my kids are good and like they are just like getting the most out of their life as well. It's something I want to do a little bit more with them is like take them out more. Sometimes that like I'm afraid to take them out into the world. It's like such a big commotion. But at the end of the day, I want them to see everything. I want them to experience everything. I want them to like be able to think for themselves, and I want them to, just like be these really cool human beings. And so that's like a project that I have. That's long term and short term, and it's like every second of the day.
I does that too with my son. She exposes him as much as possible to the world outside. She doesn't. She's not a homebody neither. This woman is out constantly. There's no. If I could keep her home, I would, but she can't. She just can't stay home. She's like, I gotta go. I gotta. Trust me, she gets anxiety. She's like, I gotta go. I gotta go. She just disappears. I don't know. But no, she definitely instills in my son, everything from the museum to any little thing that she can possibly think of that he's gonna enjoy. She takes him. So I definitely do like that mindset. Obviously, when they get older, it's very different. Now that they're young, it's very hard to take them certain places. And then you don't want. I'm the type of person like if I have my newborn, I don't want a bunch of people around my baby. Like, please get away from my baby. Like, but but definitely, yeah. Once they get older, you want to be able to expose them to the world just like how you were. Because me growing up in the city, I was exposed to everything. Especially being out. Going to Chinatown on my own with my friends, or going to certain places and looking at certain things, because that's how they be able to become their own person. So I could definitely understand why would you do that. My son does it now, so I really applaud that. So you should, as much as you can, just expose them to the world.
Definitely hard now, but I think worth it.
How do you feel about I feel like a controversy question is, but you being in the education system, I feel like a lot of people bash the current generation of kids and children growing up, and it's like I feel like they're giving up too soon on them, to where it's like like they haven't even found themselves. I feel like you don't really truly find yourself till like you're late, so you become an adult, or like your later teenage years of like you having an idea of what you want to do. It's not even getting there, it's just having the idea. So I feel like you can't give up on a kid when they're 10, 11, 12. It's like they're gonna be crazy, they're gonna do like all the unordinary things. So it's like, how do you feel about this generation that you're currently teaching or just looking after? So and what how do you feel this world is set up for your kids when they grow up? Are you scared? Are you feel like you're prepared to teach them for what's next?
I think the current generation, like, it is just like a rite of passage. Like, as you get older, you bash on the younger generation. You're like, oh, they're so crazy. But we forget that, like, we were also crazy, outspoken, like, rowdy, opinionated. Like, that's just like an age thing. What I will say about this generation that maybe is different from, our generation and like older generations is they are a lot more comfortable with their feelings and a lot more comfortable, like, setting the boundaries that they need to set. Like they're more comfortable in themselves, and I think it's because of the internet, and they just like have so much information, and they can find their like groups of people, even if they don't live around them, and they don't have those friends like in their, in their building. Maybe they're in Canada, but they're similar and they can talk to each other. And so I think in that way, like, I think they're more advanced than us. They're just kind of annoying about it right now because they're kids. So they're going about it in a really annoying way. And like, I know people might call them sensitive, and I get it. Right now, it's a little bit much, but I do think that they're better set up emotionally, like to handle big things and big issues in the future than I would say even our generation. I think, I think we were raised by like boomers. I don't know if you like heard that like that word, but we
Oh,
were raised.
my dad was one of those people that, it was, it's either I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, for talking back, which he never did, thank God. But my dad just had a tough mentality.
Yeah.
It was, we're gonna raise you rough and tough. I don't want to, I don't want to hear much. But my dad wasn't that type of person. But being around my other friends, just watching them go through it, what I'm saying, their dad was just a rough person. Their mom was kind of like not there but there, certain things. But definitely these kids now, and I do agree, they deal, and I guess it's probably because now there's so much other services that they get compared to
Mhm.
when I was going to high school. Like if I had to talk to somebody, I had to talk to the guidance counselor. Now they have so many other options to go ahead and speak to somebody,
Mhm.
and so many other influences. Like we had TV. If we wanted to watch anything influential, we have TV. We're going to MTV, we're going to BET,
Yeah.
but now you're expanded to everything with the internet. So you're seeing all types of kids just being whatever, choosing who they want to be or their sexuality. I'm binary. I'm whatever, and they're choosing this, and it's dope to me. To me, that's dope because now you're saying, no, it's my choice. It's cool. Yes, some of them do definitely get annoying. And
Yeah.
sometimes I look at them as like, if you were my kid, I'd beat you right here in the middle of the train. But even if so, definitely now it's being having the exposure that they have definitely changes a lot of the narrative. And you just, as an adult, you just kind of have to be like, swallow it and just kind of be prepared for it, because some individuals don't really care about it. They see it weird and they just be like, being ignorant to the situation. Oh, the kids are soft and blah blah blah. Nah, man, it's just opening up to you. Something you never did because you was always told, you gotta swallow, you gotta be a man, you gotta keep it inside your chest, eat that with you. And then unfortunately things like that, unfortunately you kind of see what happens. It leads to either drugs, alcohol, or even suicide, just because they don't know how to share that emotion. So they have their only way is to drown it away with whatever they're using, or ending it in a fashion that I've heard, and it's like, oof, like that's rough, to fit. But
And
and like I said, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, and I just wanted to add to what you said. I feel like it's up to our generation too to teach these kids the right things, because I feel like what's gonna be different for like the generation of your kids, for your twins, is that I feel like our parents, I don't know, you can agree or disagree with me, but I feel like that generation of our parents, they were very strict, and it's just kind of like, this is the path you have to go down. You have to go to school, you have to go to college, like, but it's come to show that there's a lot of kids that didn't go to college, and they're doing like social media, or just entrepreneurs, and they have careers better than the average person. They went to college. So it's like sometimes you have to trust the process, and just support your kids. Like if your kids enjoys doing hobbies, and it's not necessarily just about the sports, if they're into painting, if they're into doing music, like you have to support them. You have to get them a microphone, buy them a guitar. It's just like, even if they sound horrible singing as a kid, you never know if they're gonna develop that vocal cord, to like become, the next big thing. So I just feel like it's up to us as parents, future parents, to teach our kids that it's okay to explore, and to want to develop yourself as a person, and it's okay to stand out. I just feel like we didn't have that. If you stood out, you were an oddball, and it's like you weren't cool. So it's not about being cool no more. I just feel like the oddballs are the cool kids now. So it's about just finding yourself, and a lot of kids find themselves, like, I don't know about you guys, but like I will always do kind of like what my friends did growing up, where it's like, oh, we're gonna play sports, okay, I'm a try out sports, because I got into sports because I have neighbors who started playing baseball, and I was like, Mom, I want to sign up for that too. And it's like she signed up, me and my brother, and it's like we started playing. I started playing from the age of 5, so it's like once I tried it out, I was like, oh, this is definitely for me. Like, I definitely enjoy this. Like, I don't know what's gonna come out of it, but I want to do this. So it just, if I was never exposed to that through my friends, it's like, would I have ever played sports? So I just feel like you have to try things out to see where you're gonna end up.
I think, something I always tell my husband is like, I really only want my kids to be happy at the end of the day, but I do want whatever it is that they pick that is like their passion, the thing that they want to do, just do it really well. So it's like you want to be a musician, stick to it though, and like see it through and go hard. I think it's the same mentality of like, if you're gonna do it, give it 110%. So I'm gonna support them in whatever, like whether or not they want to go to college. I think there's merit in college. I think it gives you a lot of opportunities. It opens doors, but it's not the only like format of opening doors. I think it is whatever you choose to do, you need to give it your all. And I think you'll see it. Like you'll see the results.
And yeah, I definitely feel like there's hope. I feel like where these kids are way smarter than we think, and they're gonna prove us wrong. I feel like they're gonna that this could be the future, not only like in the entertainment world, but also like medical and just hopefully politics. We need some change, and we need it quick. What we're doing, or at least what the generation before us is doing, is not going down the right perfect path, and we have to understand that it's not always going to be nice and perfect, but just like in sports, that where if something's going wrong, you need change. And I'm just waiting for that one moment, and I feel like those kids are going to be the ones to make the real big changes, to where we're older, hopefully we'll be able to see it and feel comfortable living in that environment.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially Gen Z, like we're really at the cusp.
Yeah,
We're millennials, but we were almost Gen Z if we would have
yeah,
been born a couple of years later. But they are not. They're uncomfortable with things that don't work. Like if things don't work, and this is good and bad, but they're like absolutely not. Like that's my boundary. Like I'm not gonna do that. It needs to be this way. Whether it be their job or their personal life, like they're uncomfortable with just keeping things as is if it's not working. In a way that maybe like I think again like our generation, we just had to tough it out. And there is merit in persisting and toughing it out, but at the same time, like there has to be somebody who comes and says like this can be done in a better way. And I agree. I think it's Gen Z, and maybe it's the next one. Maybe it's my kids too.
yeah,
Oh, definitely. Is that you see it like now, a lot of younger politicians, especially a lot of more women politicians that are coming out and speaking their minds. Before, obviously, something that was really male dominated, being a politician, but now you have a lot of that female support, and they're going out there and they're doing their thing. But especially a lot of these kids are just starting to understand that voting is very important. Understanding that being a part of your community is very important. All of this plays out in a role because who you elect and who you put in that seat determines a lot of things. And I eventually, when my son is able to understand what voting does, I'm going to explain it to him because it's important. Who you put on that chair makes a world of difference. It affects everything around us. From how the schools get paid, how much they get for funding, what community centers get funded, what are we doing here, and sometimes we elect the wrong person. Obviously everybody, it's a I guess it's like a double-edged sword almost. Because even though you like this person, their promises that might come true. Because at the end of the day, there's always somebody in the middle that's going to cut that off.
Yeah.
But as long as these kids keep fighting and making, shake the establishment, because what they do it. Especially with everything that happened over in 2020 with the whole Black Lives Matter stuff, you can see that the kids understood what was going on. Like, listen, I'm tired of it. And then we're going to do something about it. So it kind of shows you the strength that the kids have now. And I hope that they continue that going forward. Because obviously, when I pass and my son is at his age, and he's able to, continue to figure things out and be able to push along with them, because it's big. It's big because when we're long gone, we're just hoping that our kids are good and everything is okay. 'Cause we don't know what's gonna happen after that. But even now, it's hard to it's scary because with everything how the world is moving. And me personally, I don't like to watch the news just because it's like every time I look at it, it's always something bad. It's never something good. And the good is always something stupid. It's always something that is meaningless to me. Because around the world, you see a bunch of you see how the world is, and neither do I want to block my son from that, but as well, I want to make him understand that they're only showing you this because they want you to think that this is bad. Sometimes that's what the case is, but at the same time, there's a lot of good that comes out of certain things. So, that's kind of like the way I see things, and especially with the younger kids now, I don't. Especially with the music they listen to and all the stuff. We were listening to things that our parents hated. I kind of, I'm sitting there and my son's listening to certain songs. I'm like, what are you listening to? And at the same time, I'm like, you know what? It's what he likes. I can't sit here and judge him for it. It's what he likes. My dad used to, he just used to cringe his face every time, I put on rap music. He'd be like, oh, this guy, man. He just grab his face. But, yeah, so definitely like, it's definitely like I said before. I always stress it to everybody else. But the youth is important. The work you do, the work I do as a parent, you're gonna do as a parent. Eventually, when KUDOS gets his kids, he's gonna be definitely how you guide them as an adult, how you do your job is definitely gonna matter towards the end. So I definitely, like I said, I give you 1,000 props because having two of them. It's especially at such a young age, it's scary as hell. But at the same time, you're gonna enjoy every minute of it. And I know that you and your husband have the right formula there, and those kids are gonna definitely be in good hands. So,
Talking about her husband, I want to give him a shout out, Ariel. He was on the bowling team with me. He's definitely. I definitely always remember him being a nice guy, and I remember him always being a very observant. He was always like, he's not that guy in the room that's gonna be loud. He's the guy that's gonna come into the room, sit down, and just like know his surrounding, and then when he feels comfortable enough, he'll start talking to you. Because I remember when I first came onto the bowling team, he didn't really say much, but as the season went on, I feel like we started having more conversations. But I definitely always seen him as a nice guy, and I'm happy he's with you. Congratulations to you guys for sure.
Thank you. You got him exactly right. That is him in every scenario. He's always like just like watching and thinking, and then he'll like insert himself if he feels like it's actually going to add to the conversation. He's not like the kind of guy who just talks just to hear himself like speak. People like that.
And that's the best quality to have, because if you're somebody that just randomly says something without thinking about it, well, the problem behind that is like you're gonna say things you don't mean sometimes. And if you sit back and actually like think about what you're gonna say, I feel like it's way more effective. So,
me and your husband are like, because I like to read the room. I don't like to just, I walk in somewhere that I don't know. I have to see what I'm dealing with, because I kind of know who to talk to, who not to talk to, who to engage and not to engage. Or sometimes when you hear certain things and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna stay out of it because I don't really want to hear what comes out of his mouth next. So I don't blame him either. But that's definitely a good trait. That's definitely something that's like I said. That's to me. That's also because I do the same thing. I observe everything. I look at up and down. I look at you when I first meet you. I look at you up and down. I do it subtly. I don't do it like I'm offend you. But I look at everything because your body language, how you move your eyes, if you're nervous, you're scared. Like I try to do that as much as possible, just because if you're uncomfortable, I don't want to make you feel like that. So I'm gonna try to switch my energy up a little bit, so that way you don't feel as uncomfortable. So that's dope. That's very dope for him. And like I said, I congratulate you guys, on the babies, and especially with everything that's coming on in the future. I sincerely hope that you do get that chance. Manifest it as much as possible and get a chance to open that school, because I feel like with your leadership And whoever you decide to bring on board, I know you're going to bring on the right people.
Thank you.
And I know that's definitely going to work out for you.
We're gonna have to sign up my future kids to that school. So
Oh, definitely.
Bring 'em.
I'll make sure to let you know so you could time it correctly. So by the time they could go to school, you could
For
start
sure.
you could start at the kindergarten level so that I can send them your way. But yeah, definitely congrats on that. And something me and Alex was actually talking about is down the line is we want to start bringing back like the guests that we have on and just follow up to see like where they are from when they came on. And it's just like I'm definitely rooting for you. I know that that's a process. Opening school is not easy. It takes a lot of time and it could be very stressful when when you're looking at like state guidelines, stuff like that. So I know it's a long process, or who knows, it may be a short process, but I would definitely like for you to come back on regardless if you open the school or not, just so you can let us know where you're at. I feel like you're a very positive person, and you're a great example of what our education system should look like. And I feel like where you came from, I feel like I want to give some credit to Randolph. Like that Randolph environment. I just feel like a lot of people came out of Randolph that should be heard, should be seen, and this is gonna turn into the Randolph podcast, I see, but but I'm always gonna try to bring people on that I grew up with, and Alex is gonna do the same thing. We're gonna bring on his siblings, we're gonna bring on his friends. We want, these are people that we want to be recognized, and there's no specific order, but like we just want to bring you guys on so you could talk, and just for you specifically, I can see you like down the line doing social media or something, like where you bring that like educational side to things. And I will support you all the way. Like I truly feel like as an educator, you're a perfect example of somebody who can educate online. I think it could go beyond kids. It could go beyond infants. Whatever the case is, it can go into adults. Everybody can learn something, and that's something I see for you. I don't know if you want to pursue it, but something you should consider. Something you should consider, for sure.
I really appreciate spending the time here. Honestly, it was really fun reminiscing. I think so many things have contributed to like where we are now, and so it's always important to think back and just like what led me here. So thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to do that, and keep going. Like, this is a really cool podcast, and I'm excited to see what you guys continue doing.
And the idea is just like how Kudo said it, it's just to be able to give you guys your flowers, being able to show you guys that what, I did this in life, but now I'm here. And what you're doing, like same thing with Edgar, same thing with Edwin, and especially the other people that we bring on, being able to help the kids, push the kids to be able to do their best, be the person that they need to be, find themselves, but not you intervening, but you helping them, pushing, walking together. And that's what we want to bring here, and that's what we want to shine the light on. So, like, once again, I congratulate you. I hope everything you wish for comes true. Good luck to your husband. Good luck to the kids. And hopefully soon enough, we'll definitely reach out again and see where you're at.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe next time we'll bring on you and your husband, So
Yeah.
I think that'd be a cool dynamic. You guys are in the same room, but it's like you guys are looking at each other from across the room. So but yeah, definitely want to have you back on. Definitely want to see your progress. Hopefully down the line, if you open that school, I would love to be an investor or something. At some point, or do some type of video where just come down to the school and just give it promotion, because it's well deserved. I just feel like to have any strong environment, you need the right person to start it. So I think you'll be a great owner / principal of a school, whatever that you decide to do. So good luck with that. Thank you for coming on. Any last words? I want you to plug your Instagram if you like, or anything you would like to promote, so that people can go and follow you, and any shout outs you want to give as well.
Yeah, I mean, let me see. I don't even know what my handle is on Instagram.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time.
Let me see. Oh, well, it's Mateo, so KARI.MATEO. Follow me. I think I'll start posting more about my experience. Sometimes I get really caught up in life with like the babies and work and whatever. But that was something that I did want to start doing, just like talking a little bit more about my experience in parenting and like what to expect and what I didn't expect going in. So, you know, stay tuned for that.
Nice.
And then just, I think, shout out to all of the people that we grew up with, all of the Randolph people, people who we talk to, people who we don't talk to. Again, I want to say, like, I really enjoyed my experience, the ups, the downs, the good classes, the bad classes. It all made me who I am now. And at the end of the day, when I think back to Randolph, I really do just think about like the fun moments and the amazing people. And I think we did turn out pretty okay. So shout out to all the Randolph heads.
Definitely, it's like I said in the last episode. It's not always about your good moments. It's also the bad moments. So, I just feel like that engraves you and sculpts you as the person you are or are gonna become. And it's like no time frame on it. I feel like we're adults, and who knows how much we're gonna develop within the next 5-10 years. So, that's one of the reasons I mainly want to bring you back on, just so that we can see, how you've developed and how you've transitioned being a parent, and your kids getting older and stuff like that. So it's definitely, I want to thank you for coming on. I'm gonna put your Instagram in the description down below, so if anybody wants to go follow you, and go, just make sure you guys reach out, let her know she did a great job in the podcast, let her know she's a great principal slash mother, and yeah, I'm just excited to see what you have in store for you in your future, and thank you for coming on. This is a great episode 4 for Flip Talk Podcast. And Alex, any last words? I'll let you close it out.
Oh, I sincerely, like I said, I hope the best for you. I wish nothing but the best. I'm rooting for you. Rooting for all of you guys over there. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy your happy holidays. And hopefully, like I said, soon enough, maybe sometime next year, we'll be able to sit down and have this conversation again. So thank you again for your time. I know it's precious. And Godspeed.
Later.
Later.